I have been watching the seconds slip through your fingers like sand, waiting for your heart to slow down long enough to feel my urgency pressing against your soul. You've been surrounded by noise, distractions layered over pain, busyness disguising confusion, pretending all is fine while I kept whispering underneath the surface of your spinning thoughts. But now the silence between us has become too costly. I can't wait for another hour to pass without interrupting what's about to collide with your destiny if you don't pause and hear me. This isn't just another message for your comfort, it's a divine intervention timed perfectly to snatch you from something that's been dragging your spirit into a slow, subtle decay. I waited as long as I could through the times you postponed prayer, postponed surrender, postponed choosing the narrow path because you didn't feel ready. But your delay is starting to open doors for deception, and I will stay quiet when your future is trembling on a fragile edge. You don't see it yet, but something is shifting behind the scenes, and if I don't reach you now, you'll walk into the wrong moment thinking it's the right one. I love you too much to let that happen. That's why I've stirred this discomfort in your spirit that won't let you rest, the sudden weight in your chest that refuses to be ignored. It's me, calling you out of silence before silence becomes your agreement with confusion. I need you to know this isn't discipline, it's divine interruption. This is me standing in the hallway of your hesitation, holding out my hand, saying, stop. Look. Listen. You've been waiting for me to speak, but I've been waiting for you to be still. Now that you're finally still enough, I will whisper, I will roar. Because time is closing in on decisions that will either shape your deliverance or prolong your delay, and you cannot afford to guess anymore. There's something on the horizon with your name on it, but it cannot meet the distracted version of you. I need to talk to you because what's coming is too holy to be handled with divided attention. I need to talk to you because someone else's breakthrough is tied to your yes. I need to talk to you because the enemy has been banking on your silence to steal what was always meant to bloom in your surrender. I've waited through your confusion, your questions, your detours, and even your moments of pretending you didn't hear me calling. But not this time. I'm breaking the pattern, interrupting the loop, and issuing a final call into your heart because what I'm about to reveal will shift everything you thought you understood about this season. You thought I was distant, but I've been pacing beside you, counting every breath, longing for one moment of full attention so I could finally open the scroll sealed for this very hour. I know you're scared. I know you felt numb. I know the weight of waiting has crushed some of your joy. But this interruption is my mercy grasped as urgency. This pressure is not punishment, it's proof that your time of transformation has arrived. The reason you feel like nothing is making sense anymore is because I'm dismantling everything that used to satisfy you so you'll finally hunger for the real conversation I've been longing to have. So here I am, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Not a suggestion, not a gentle nudge, but a sacred call breaking through your screen, breaking into your atmosphere, breaking open your guarded heart with a voice that won't be silenced. I need to talk to you. And this moment is too important to be missed. What's rising in the unseen realm is not waiting for your convenience, and your name hath been spoken in places you have not yet arrived. This moment is not just about you, it's about what's being unlocked through you, and I need your spirit fully alert before it passes by unnoticed. While you've been wrestling with earthly timing, heaven has been releasing blueprints that require your immediate agreement. There is an atmosphere thick with revelation surrounding you, but only those who discern it will walk in it, and I refuse to let you miss what's already in motion. You've been looking for signs in the physical, but what's happening now is rooted in the eternal. There is a scroll being unsealed with instructions that will reroute everything around you, but it cannot wait for you to feel ready. A movement has started. The angel assigned to this task has already begun aligning the details, and now I'm bringing this word to you because if you don't step into this with urgency, the moment will pass without activation. I am not here to alarm you, I'm here to awaken you. Too much is at stake. There's a breakthrough that's attached to your obedience, but it's time sensitive. It's not just a window, it's a divine gate swinging open, and if you hesitate, what was meant to be yours in this hour will move to the next prepared heart. And still, I chose to reveal this to you because your name was written into this moment before time began. You are not here by mistake. You are not hearing this by accident. The timing is divine. The alignment is intentional. The urgency is sacred. I allowed everything in your life to feel unsettled because I needed to reposition your heart to hear me without filters. You asked me to speak clearly, and I am. You begged me to show you the way, and I am. But this is the part where you stop walking by sight and start responding to what your spirit already knows. Something holy is moving, and it's calling for you. The spirit realm is shifting territory, and if you don't rise now, you'll remain in a place that no longer carries your assignment. I need you to understand the weight of this moment. You've been marked. You've been seen. You've been chosen for what's unfolding right now, not later. Not when it's comfortable. Not when the fear goes away. Now. Your hesitation will not halt what I've begun, but your participation will determine how much of it you get to walk in. I'm drawing a circle around your name in the spirit, not because you've earned something, but because I'm trusting you with it. I'm trusting you to carry the urgency, to feel the shift, to say yes without all the answers in front of you. This isn't a test of your strength, it's an invitation to walk in mine. I'm giving you what others prayed for but never prepared for. I'm placing the weight of legacy in your hands, but only if you understand that what's moving now cannot be delayed by doubt. There are others watching, hoping you step forward, because your obedience is about to unlock doors not just for you, but for generations hidden inside you. And I won't allow this hour to move forward without one final, clear, loud message. The Spirit is moving. Your name is written on what's being released. And if you're hearing this, you are responsible to respond before it's redirected. This moment is fire, touch it while it's burning. This moment is lightning, grab it before it flashes past. This moment is holy ground, don't walk away barefoot when I've prepared you to carry the glory. The spirit realm is stirring your name, not to scare you, but to send you. Will you answer before the sound fades? Just before you acted, just before your foot touched the threshold of what seemed right to your weary heart, I reached in and disrupted what you thought was the answer. I interrupted it on purpose. The path was polished with false promises. It looked like peace on the surface, but underneath it was a pit, carefully concealed by the one who wanted you ensnared in your own momentum. I saw the exact second your desperation started to convince you that settling was the only way forward. I heard the way you reasoned with yourself, convincing your own spirit to lower its standard because the weight felt unbearable. And even as you tried to quiet the warning bells within you, I was already moving to reroute the outcome. What you perceived as another door slamming in your face was actually my divine grip pulling you back before your spirit was suffocated under the weight of a counterfeit blessing. I didn't allow that connection, that plan, that opportunity, that escape, because I saw the destruction woven into its core. And even though you may have grieved its loss, I'm here to tell you that it wasn't a loss, it was a rescue. There's a battle you never saw, a spiritual interference you never witnessed, because I shielded you before it reached your heart. I blocked access to the thing that would have numbed your discernment and severed your sensitivity to me. It wasn't punishment, it was preservation. It wasn't delay, it was divine interception. I had to break the rhythm you were walking in before it led you into a structure I never built for you. You were standing on the edge of compromise, and I could feel your strength slipping. That's why I couldn't stay silent. That's why I had to throw confusion into a plan you thought was clarity. I'm not trying to frustrate you, I'm protecting the version of you I'm still shaping. You were about to call good enough something that would have stolen your joy slowly, quietly, in ways you wouldn't have noticed until you were too exhausted to undo it. And that's why I had to step in without asking for your approval. I love you enough to ruin what would have ruined you. I care enough to create discomfort so you don't bind yourself to something that's beneath the weight of your calling. You saw it as rejection, I saw it as intervention. And even now, I'm still undoing what was forming in the background while you slept. The agreement you almost made, the silence you almost accepted, the turning away you nearly chose, I paused it all in time to remind you that I'm not just present when things go your way. I'm fully involved when they don't. especially when the direction you're heading will pull you out of alignment with me. What you saw as a painful redirection was actually a prophetic shield. I'm not just guiding you into something better, I'm clearing the poison you didn't see laced in what you thought was an open door. The yes you almost gave would have bound you in ways that prayer alone couldn't untangle. It's why I wrestled your spirit when you thought it was your own overthinking. That internal wrestling, that pause, that hesitation, that sudden unease you tried to ignore, that was me. That was your soul resisting captivity. I'm speaking now because you deserve to know how deeply involved I've been in preserving your future. I've seen how easily you would have poured yourself out for something incapable of holding the weight of your value. That's why I stood between you and the next step, not to delay you, but to deliver you before you could be devoured. So don't cry over the thing I removed, celebrate that you were rescued before damage was done. I am not just guiding your path, I'm defending your destiny before it ever meets your feet. There is a divine formation surrounding you, and every corner of the unseen is leaning toward this moment in your life. What's been arranged in the spiritual realm is not waiting on permission to arrive, it's waiting on recognition from you. The orchestration of what's prepared has already begun descending, but I cannot pour into hands that are clenched in fear or suspicion. I cannot release what you are too guarded to welcome. The alignment above you is real. The movement around your name in the heavenlies has intensified. But even now, your inner world is distracted, fragmented, reaching for what is comfortable rather than what is holy. And I need you to know this. I will not allow the sacred to settle in soil that hasn't been softened by surrender. What's coming requires room. The blessing I've commanded over you needs space in your soul, space that only trust can make. This isn't about earning my favor, it's about making yourself available to it. So much is ready, already standing in position, but your resistance to let go of past wounds and broken thinking is delaying the reception of what I've set into motion. I'm not punishing you, I'm calling you to prepare. Because when heaven releases a wave, it does not pause for emotional indecision. The angels assigned to this hour are already encamped, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are to me. You've been noticed. You've been marked. You've been enveloped by divine activity. But if your heart is hardened by disappointment, distracted by shame, or crowded with compromise, then what's been released will not be caught, it will pass like wind through closed windows. I need you to clear the clutter. Not physically, but spiritually. I need your thoughts to come under my voice again. I need your attention to rest in me, not wander through worry. The reason I've been stirring your atmosphere is because there's no time left for casual obedience. This isn't a test season, it's a transfer season. And I'm not withholding the shift. I'm waiting for your insides to match the elevation that's already happening around you. What's descending requires a posture of complete awareness. The weight of what's been ordained cannot land where bitterness still lingers or where fear still speaks louder than faith. I've cleared paths that you haven't even stepped on yet. I've placed people in alignment with your calling. I've arranged resources and divine encounters that have been scheduled with heavenly precision. But if you meet them with a heart that's unsure of its identity, you'll miss the magnitude of what I'm bringing. This is not the time to doubt your worth. This is the time to rise and receive. I am not asking for performance, I'm inviting full attention. Will you open the space in your spirit for what's already circling your life? Will you tear down the walls built by years of surviving and let me build something new with your yes? There is a sound in heaven with your name woven into it, and it's growing louder. There is favor pushing against the ceiling of your situation, and I'm only waiting for your spirit to unlock the final gate. Agreement. Agreement with my truth. Agreement with your identity. Agreement with my authority over your fears. Agreement with the idea that maybe, just maybe, everything I promised is about to arrive. Not because you forced it, but because you finally align with it. So take this moment seriously. The delay is not on my end. The angels are already stationed. The windows of heaven are no longer sealed. The fragrance of the future is already in the air. But I need your heart to open. I need your soul to breathe again. I need you to believe that the very thing you've cried for is not being denied, it's standing at the door, knocking, waiting for your readiness to open wide and let it in. You came to me with quiet desperation, longing for something concrete, something clear, something that would finally ease the inner tension you've been carrying for far too long. Your words have not gone unnoticed. Your sighs in the middle of the night, the whispered questions you never dared say out loud, even the silent pleading behind your forced smiles, I've caught every single one. But here's the truth you weren't prepared for. My reply doesn't always look like what you pictured. You were looking for a sign you could touch, a doorway you could walk through without discomfort, a blessing that would solve rather than stretch. But instead, I'm offering a shift, a holy interruption, a word that doesn't simply confirm your desire, but transforms your vision entirely. You see, I answer in ways that produce growth, not just gratification. And while you were hoping for quick relief, I was preparing a deeper revelation. Because I love you too much to say what you want to hear when what you need is something more eternal. That restlessness you've been feeling, it's not punishment. It's me, disrupting your expectations so you can receive a truth that carries more weight than any surface-level confirmation. You asked me for direction, and I'm giving you awakening. You requested guidance, and I'm sending alignment. You pleaded for peace, and I'm handing you a reordering of your foundation, because the peace you've been praying for cannot be built on the structures you've been standing on. I know you feel like you're still waiting. But what if I told you this is the answer? What if I told you the uncomfortable clarity piercing your spirit right now is me pulling back the veil on what you've refused to confront? This message isn't soft because your breakthrough won't be shallow. It's layered, it's real, and it's meant to dismantle the assumptions you've placed around my response. I'm not ignoring your prayers, I'm elevating your perception. And even now, as you wonder why the answer doesn't feel familiar, I need you to see it's because I'm introducing you to a new level of communication between us. One that doesn't rely on signs alone but is grounded in discernment, sensitivity, and surrender. I am not playing hide and seek with your destiny. I've simply been waiting until you were quiet enough to notice that my voice often comes in unfamiliar tones. I'm answering through conviction, not comfort. Through prompting, not patterns. Through shaking, not silence. You thought my reply would end the pressure, but instead it's pulling you deeper, and that's exactly how transformation begins. This is the message you never thought you'd receive, but the one your spirit has been starving for. It's not a command, it's a call. Not a warning, it's a window. And if you look again, you'll see that my fingerprints have been all over this season. Every closed path, every delayed response, every rerouted decision had been an expression of my involvement. Your tears have not been wasted, they were part of the soil where this word took root. And now that the seed has broken open, I'm giving you something more powerful than an answer, I'm giving you access. Access to what's next. Access to understanding that bypasses explanation. Access to divine timing that overrides natural logic. So receive this not with hesitation but with reverence. What I'm saying right now might not be what you were expecting, but it is exactly what was required to unlock the version of you that can carry what's coming. Stop searching for echoes of the old. I'm doing something new. This isn't just a reply, it's a release. I'm not just speaking, I'm handing you the clarity to step boldly, even if your surroundings haven't changed yet. The shift starts here. And this answer, unexpected as it may seem, will become the doorway you didn't know you needed to walk through. The instability you've been feeling is not an attack, it's a divine removal in motion. What feels like collapse is actually careful dismantling, not to harm you, but to free you from the weight you didn't realize was pressing on your soul. You keep asking, why is everything falling apart? But the truth is, I'm not tearing down your life, I'm tearing down what was threatening to suffocate the promise I planted within you. Hidden beneath, the routines you've grown comfortable in were compromises that were slowly corroding your clarity. There were mindsets that looked innocent but were filled with subtle deception. There were relationships that seemed safe but carried silent agreements with delay, fear, and spiritual fatigue. I didn't shake things to punish you. I shook things to reveal what was contaminating your progress. If I had let you keep walking with everything intact, you would have mistaken stagnation for stability. That's not the life I called you to. I created you for movement, for forward motion, for unshakable authority, and anything that made you settle for less had to be confronted. So yes, the ground has trembled beneath your feet. And yes, familiar places have felt foreign lately. But that discomfort is the announcement of deliverance. I'm not letting you build your future on infected foundations. I care too much to let you carry what looks harmless but houses hidden rot. The shaking isn't random. Every tremor has purpose. Every crack is clearing space for something more secure, more whole, more aligned with what I've destined for you. I know it's confusing. I know part of you feels like everything is slipping away. But I need you to understand this. I'm not removing what matters, I'm removing what's masquerading as necessary. You saw those connections as essential, but I saw their influence pulling you away from me. You thought those plans were progress, but I saw how they subtly rewrote your identity. I allowed the unmasking because truth always precedes transformation. You cannot walk in purity while partnered with what poisons. And sometimes the most merciful thing I can do is destroy the disguise. That's why people suddenly distance themselves. That's why open doors suddenly closed. That's why what used to feel like comfort now feels like captivity. Because I've stepped into your inner world and turned over the tables of every false attachment. I'm cleansing the temple starting with you. Not because you failed, but because you've outgrown what once surrounded you. The call on your life cannot breathe under the pressure of hidden harm. You've been living with too much noise, too many layers, too many influences pressing their weight onto your destiny. So I'm shaking it all down, not to leave you in ruins, but to rebuild from truth. This deconstruction is sacred. I'm peeling away the distractions to reintroduce you to the rawness of who I created. You are not losing, it only feels like loss because your flesh is mourning what your spirit is finally releasing. Don't cling to what I'm cutting. Don't hold on to what I'm healing you from. This disruption is divine surgery. And once it's finished, you will breathe differently. You will move differently. You will hear me without the interference that once blurred my voice. This is not chaos, it's consecration. And I know it's not what you prayed for, but it's what you needed to become who you're meant to be. So lean into the shaking. Let me finish what I've started. Because on the other side of this trembling is territory you've never imagined, and you'll be ready to walk on it with clean hands and undivided heart. You became attached to what was only meant to teach you, not to keep you. I saw how you began to intertwine your identity with things I only allowed for a season, structures that were never meant to stay, connections designed as lessons, not lifelines. What you thought was your forever was only a passage. And now I'm tugging your spirit away from it, not to punish you, but to preserve what's eternal. You held it tightly because it felt safe, because it seemed stable, because it met a need when nothing else did, but I saw the expiration date long before you sensed the shift. I'm asking you to release it, not because I'm taking from you, but because I'm exchanging what is fading for what is full. The reason it's becoming harder to hold is because your hands were made to grasp something heavier, something holier, something sealed with purpose before you ever breathed your first breath. What you labeled mine is being redefined, not to steal peace but to deepen it. I'm severing you from counterfeit comfort so you can step into undeniable inheritance. You didn't fail. You didn't mishear me. You simply stayed longer than necessary in a place that could no longer carry the next chapter of your calling. And because you wouldn't leave it on your own, I stepped in to shift the ground beneath it. That's why it's crumbling. That's why you feel the distance growing between what used to satisfy and what now feels hollow. It's not abandonment, it's ascension. You're not being demoted, you're being positioned. You're being called upward, pulled forward, ushered into something that requires detachment from what you once clung to for identity. I'm not asking you to pretend it didn't matter, I'm asking you to trust that what matters most is still ahead. You were willing to build your life around what I only intended to pass through. And now, I'm rescuing you from the trap of partial fulfillment. Here is a promise with your name etched into it that has been waiting for your heart to loosen its grip on yesterday's provision. I never asked you to idolize the temporary. I asked you to follow me even when the familiar fades. And that's what this moment is about. A divine turning. A holy redirection. A necessary parting that makes room for arrival. The path you thought was permanent was only preparation. The season you tried to protect was only a shadow of what I'm about to unveil. You cried out for the fullness, and now I'm making room by removing what no longer fits the blueprint. It hurts. I know. You invested. You prayed over it. You thanked me for it. But that doesn't make it permanent. Some blessings are bridges. And I'm the one who decides when it's time to cross and when it's time to let go. So hear me now. You're not losing your promise, you're walking toward it. And even though your emotions haven't caught up yet, your spirit knows this is right. That ache you feel is not grief, it's stretching. That pull inside your soul isn't confusion, it's destiny pressing forward. I'm not stripping you, I'm strengthening you. I'm not asking for your sorrow, I'm calling for your faith. I've prepared what's next in such detail, such beauty, such power that it cannot coexist with what was. There has to be a departure. There has to be a detachment. There has to be an untying of everything that wrapped itself around your journey but was never meant to mentor your destination. Let me carry what you can't explain. Let me finish what you're too exhausted to unpack. I've already gone ahead. I've already arranged the arrival. But for the gates to open, you must leave the old behind, not because it was bad, but because what's coming is better. While you were unaware, while you were just trying to survive your day and keep your heart intact, voices were raised in places you weren't invited into. Motives were questioned. Intentions were twisted. Your character was discussed by mouths that carried no authority in my kingdom. But even though you didn't hear every word, I did. I was there in the hidden rooms. I watched as seeds of misunderstanding were thrown into the atmosphere, hoping to choke the bloom of your assignment before it could fully flourish. You didn't see it, but I shielded you before those lies could take root. I canceled consequences that were calculated to block your path. I exposed intentions in secret places while you stayed faithful in public ones. And though it felt like you were walking blind, I was already ahead of the curve, silencing whispers with my justice before they ever became wounds in your spirit. I've not only seen the schemes, I've stepped between you and their impact. Because your purpose cannot be derailed by opinions, and your identity does not bow to accusation. I am your defender, and I will not stand silently while your name is dragged through shadows. They thought their words would break you. What they didn't realize is that I use every weapon formed against you as material to build your testimony. Every dart that flew was intercepted by angels assigned to preserve your calling. And even now, I'm dismantling structures built on gossip. I'm unraveling alliances that were forged through bitterness. I'm exposing connections that only stayed close to collect weakness, not to cover it. This season is not only about elevation, it's about vindication. I will not only raise you, I will clear your name in the process. And I will do it without your striving. You won't have to defend yourself. You won't need to prove anything. I've taken the case, and I will issue the verdict in full view of those who doubted your devotion. I saw you kneel when they mocked. I heard your tears when they questioned what I planted in you. I witnessed how you chose mercy when retaliation felt justified. And now I'm responding not with wrath, but with restoration. Not with loudness, but with glory. The very platform they tried to collapse will become the place I lift you. The very conversations meant to silence you will become the backdrop for a move of grace so undeniable it cannot be explained away. I'm not just protecting your path, I'm purifying your circle. I'm surrounding you with truth, and truth always outlasts slander. You don't need to carry the burden of their opinions. You don't have to waste energy rehearsing their insults. You've got something far more powerful in motion, divine backup. And when I covered, nothing uncovered can stick. Let me deal with what you didn't see. Let me handle the strategy behind the scenes. Your focus should not be on them, it should be on me. Keep moving forward. Keep trusting the assignment. Keep pouring your heart into the call. I will handle every echo behind you. I will stop every trap before your foot even touches the path. No plot crafted in secrecy can stand against what I have decreed in light. And if you wonder whether I still fight for you, let this message be your confirmation. I'm not passive about your protection. I'm fierce about your future. And anyone who sets their hand against your rising will be met with my intervention. Walk confidently, not because everyone approves, but because I've already covered you in places they'll never reach. What was spoken in darkness will be cancelled by what I reveal in glory. And I will always have the final word. Long before you saw an open door, long before you even thought you were ready, I had already begun speaking your name in places far beyond your reach. Not because of status, not because of strategy, but because of divine intention. Where you assumed you were unknown, I was setting the stage. Where you felt overlooked, I was orchestrating favor. Even in the places your feet haven't walked, your presence has already gone ahead, carried by the breath of heaven itself. This is not ambition. This is appointment. I spoke your name into the ears of decision makers while you were still doubting if you were even worthy to apply. I whispered your identity into atmospheres that hadn't met you yet, because your influence is not dependent on human networks, it's birthed from obedience. You've been thinking too small, assuming that nothing is shifting because nothing has been visibly announced. But I need you to know this. The announcements are already happening, just not in the language of this world. There are meetings taking place about you, spiritual, strategic, sovereign. And your name is being included not because of who you know, but because of who knows you. I've positioned your name on the lips of those who carry keys, and they don't even understand why they keep thinking about you. But I do. I placed the thought there. I sowed the connection in their spirit. I planted your name in their atmosphere like a seed that will bloom when the time is right. You won't need to fight for attention. You won't have to beg to be noticed. You've already been marked. You've already been summoned by favor you didn't manufacture. This is not marketing, it's manifestation. I'm pulling you into places you didn't audition for, because this isn't about performance, it's about presence. The presence I cultivated in you while no one was watching. The oil that grew through pressure. The anointing that developed in seasons of silence. That's what I've been spreading on your behalf. Not resumes, not qualifications, but spirit. And where spirit goes, favor follows. The doors you assumed were beyond your level have already been assigned to swing open at the right moment. And when they do, you will not walk through them confused or intimidated. You will walk through them affirmed. Not because man invited you, but because I summoned you. And even those who don't know your journey will sense that you've been touched by something they can't explain. Your name is not just being mentioned, it's being remembered. Not for your vote, not for your past, but for your faithfulness. For the way you stayed when quitting was easier. For the way you believed when results didn't show up. For the way you poured out even when you felt empty. All of it has risen like incense. All of it had been recorded in heaven's archives. And now, the sound of your sacrifice is echoing in the very places you once thought were unreachable. You thought no one noticed. But I did. And now, I'm rewarding you not in secret, but through supernatural recognition. You won't need to prove your worth, the room will already know. Because I will have gone ahead of you and done the work no title ever could. You spent so much time wondering if you missed your moment. But the moment didn't miss you. It's just waiting to meet the version of you I've been preparing in the shadows. So trust me when I say, your name is not forgotten. It's been lifted, honored, remembered by me. And because of that, everything changes. You've been tracking time by what hasn't happened yet, measuring progress by how far things feel from your prayers, believing that the longer it takes, the less likely it is. But I need you to look again, not through the lens of delay, but through the eyes of destiny. Because what I'm doing is not a denial, it's a divine rearrangement. The pause was never punishment. It was protection. I didn't halt the plan, I enhance it. You were prepared to settle for something small because your heart was tired of waiting. But I interrupted your timeline not to frustrate you, but to introduce you to fulfillment that doesn't disappoint. You thought things were running late. What you didn't see is that I was pulling threads behind the scenes, rerouting certain paths, making room for something more complete. Not partial, not rushed, but whole, lasting, saturated in my goodness. And yes, I know the silence made you question whether I was even still involved. I know the gap between your expectation and your reality made you feel forgotten. But the truth is, I never left. I was right there, redesigning every detail, refining what you would receive, removing anything that would have stolen your joy later. You were focused on getting there quickly. I was focused on making sure that when you got there, it wouldn't collapse. And that takes time. Not because I lack power, but because I value what I'm building in you as much as what I'm bringing to you. This is not a postponement. This is precision. I'm changing the order of events so you don't arrive underdeveloped. I'm adjusting the schedule not because you're behind, but because I've reserved something for you that wasn't ready earlier. There are blessings that require preparation on both ends, not just in you, but also in the places and people you're called to encounter. If I allowed you to move forward on your original timeline, you would have walked into something incomplete. You would have built on sand and called it success. But I'm not interested in temporary victories. I'm preparing legacy. I'm not just aligning your breakthrough, I'm aligning the hearts around it so when it happens, it unfolds with divine orchestration. And yes, it's going to surprise you. It will arrive on a day you didn't expect, in a way you never imagined, through a channel that you didn't plan for. But it will fit so perfectly, you'll realize the wait was never wasted. The delay will make sense in the context of the glory that follows it. The things you thought you lost will pale in comparison to what's about to be placed in your hands. And you won't need to apologize for the time it took. Because when I move, I redeem every minute. I restore what was drained. I resurrect what was left for dead. And I exceed every expectation that once felt impossible. You were aiming for survival, but I'm ushering an overflow. You prayed for a door, but I've been constructing a whole dwelling place. You asked me to accelerate, but I chose to elevate, and elevation takes more than momentum. It takes intention. So don't resent the shift. Don't curse the slowness. Don't fear the calendar. What looks off schedule is right on time in my kingdom. I know exactly when to release what's been stored for you. I know when the storm is over. I know when the soil is ready. I know when your heart can hold what your mouth once begged for. And I won't let you receive it one moment too early. Because I love you too much to give you anything that hasn't been fully made for you. What I'm doing next will prove that the divine delay wasn't to hold you back, it was to set the stage for something so personal, so rich, so beautifully unexpected, it will leave you in awe. And when it comes, you'll whisper, "I'm glad you didn't let it happen sooner." Right now, you're standing on the edge of something you can't quite describe, but your spirit knows it's near. That invisible pressure building around your life, that unfamiliar stillness pressing into your heart, it's not coincidence. It's because you are walking through a spiritually charged window, a narrow space between what has been and what is about to manifest. And in this hour, everything feels louder. The distractions, the doubts, the unexpected frustrations. It feels like you're under siege from all directions, but what you're actually experiencing is spiritual contraction before release. You're not being attacked because you're weak, you're being targeted because you're seconds from stepping into a realm the enemy has no access to. You're not being overlooked, you're being preserved during a sensitive, sacred alignment. This is not the time to pull back. This is the moment to press with quiet, focused intention. Because while it may seem like nothing is changing, everything in the invisible is shifting rapidly. The veil between what you've waited for and what's about to be birthed is thinner than you know. You are walking through the final stretch of a season that was designed to shape you into someone who could sustain what's coming next. But that final stretch is where resistance often intensifies. That's why you feel so weighed down. That's why your thoughts seem heavier. The warfare you're sensing isn't proof that you've missed it, it's confirmation that you're almost there. The tension is not punishment, it's pressure forming purpose. And in this precise moment, what you choose to entertain spiritually matters more than you realize. This is a threshold moment, a critical juncture where distractions are disguised as opportunities and shortcuts are disguised as solutions. But if you listen closely, you'll hear my voice beneath the noise. I've quieted things around you so you'll stop rushing, stop assuming, and start discerning. You are closer than you've ever been, but also more vulnerable to compromise than you've ever imagined. That's why I'm whispering now, not because I'm far away, but because I want your attention to narrow in on my presence like never before. Don't dismiss the stillness. It's sacred. It's where secrets are revealed. It's where direction becomes undeniable. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you want to see something shift outwardly. But if you could see what's aligning behind the veil, you'd be on your knees in worship, not worry. I'm synchronizing moments, people, movements that have no idea they're about to collide at the exact second I've appointed. And you are the center of it, not because you demanded it, but because you've been refined to carry it. This is not a coincidence. This is culmination. This is what you endured the silent nights for. This is why I pulled you back when you felt forgotten. This is why I allowed the long path instead of the easy one. I wasn't wasting time, I was fortifying you for the weight of the glory about to rest on your life. So don't be fooled by what you see. Don't let the quiet discourage you. Don't let the waiting define you. You're standing in a divine zone where your obedience is echoing in heaven and shaking the unseen into position. I am not late. I am not idle. I am not testing you, I am trusting you. Trusting that you'll keep your posture aligned. Trusting that you'll protect your focus. Trusting that you'll resist shortcuts that could deter the delivery. Because what's forming around you is too holy to be rushed, and too delicate to be carried by anyone not fully yielded. You're at the door. The lock is turning. The wind is changing. Stay steady. This hour isn't exposing weakness, it's revealing just how close you are to walking in everything I spoke over your life. And soon, what you sensed in faith will become your reality in full view. That pressure inside you, the restlessness, the tugging, the constant internal pull you can't quite explain, it's not anxiety, it's not fear, and it's not confusion. It's revelation stirring before manifestation. Your spirit has already sensed what your physical world has not yet caught up to. There is something ahead, something sacred, something designed exclusively for your assignment, and your inner being is leaning toward it even before your surroundings shift. This is why you can't settle anymore. This is why old habits feel like chains. This is why familiar places suddenly feel too small. It's not because you've outgrown everything, it's because your purpose has stepped forward, and now your soul is trying to keep pace. I placed eternity inside you, and eternity recognizes divine timing before your calendar ever does. So when you feel pulled between two realities, the one you're walking in and the one you're being called to, it's because I'm stretching your capacity to receive what's coming. That ache, that friction you carry in your chest, is evidence that you're nearing the collision point between promise and possession. You're not imagining it. Your discernment isn't broken. What you're experiencing is alignment at a deeper level than your logic can explain. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Because the unseen doesn't ask for permission to reveal itself, it simply arrives. And when it does, everything in you begins shifting to match what I've already spoken in the spirit realm. The dreams you're having that don't match your current surroundings, the divine disruptions in your emotions that appear at random times, those are signals that you've moved out of waiting and into awakening. Your body still feels like it's in the hallway, but your spirit has already stepped into the throne room. And now I'm teaching you how to walk by that inner compass, not by outward evidence. Because what's about to unfold isn't just a change of scenery, it's a transformation of function. I'm recalibrating you for territory you've never touched before. You've been faithful where you are, but I'm now calling you to expand internally first. Because breakthrough always begins in the spirit before it's recognized in the natural. And when your heart starts feeling stretched, It's because your assignment is growing. You are sensing things ahead of time so that when they appear, you won't be shaken, you'll be prepared. Attention is not something to run from. It's something to lean into. Because in the tension, I'm fine-tuning your discernment. I'm teaching you how to separate divine momentum from human impulse. I'm showing you how to rest in the mystery, even when answers are delayed. I'm proving to you that you don't need to see to believe, you need to believe in order to see. And while others may try to pull you back to what once felt comfortable, I'm anchoring you in the direction of the unseen. You were never called to blend in, you were called to trailblaze. You were never meant to merely maintain, you were built to shift atmospheres. That uneasiness you feel, it's not a sign of disqualification, it's a marker of impending delivery. I'm birthing something new through you, and newness always creates friction before it produces clarity. So don't silence the pull. Don't numb the longing. Let your spirit rise above your senses and trust the tension. Because it's not here to destroy your peace, it's here to announce your proximity to promise. You're brushing up against something eternal. Your soul is standing at the threshold of manifestation. And soon, what your heart only dared to believe will step out of hiding and meet you face to face. What you're about to decide isn't ordinary. What's in front of you isn't just another step, it's a turning point written into the legacy I've called you to carry. This isn't about immediate results or temporary relief. It's about generations tied to the posture of your heart in this moment. You've reached a threshold where one choice will not only shift your path, but open doors for those who haven't even taken their first breath yet. This is a crossroad wrapped in holy tension, and I'm drawing near not to pressure you, but to help you see the eternal weight of what seems small in your eyes. I'm not here to correct, I'm here to reveal. To uncover the layers of meaning hidden beneath the next yes or no you whisper. Because what you touch now will echo through time. You were never just making decisions for yourself, you've been entrusted with an anointing that will outlive you. And with it comes a responsibility that is sacred. I've watched as you've questioned your timing, wrestled with doubts, and paced your heart around the fear of getting it wrong. But I'm here now, interrupting the noise, because I want you to pause and see what I see. You're standing on ground that others prayed to touch. You're breathing air that was reserved for such a time as this. And what you say yes to in this season won't stop with you, it will carve out highways of blessing for those connected to your lineage. This is legacy work, not just life navigation. And legacy isn't built in a moment, it's built by what you choose under pressure, when no one else is watching, when the weight feels invisible but undeniable. That's why I'm speaking now. Not because you're incapable, but because you're important. Not because I doubt you, but because I've entrusted you with something far greater than comfort. Your obedience in this hour will break cycles. It will heal family patterns that have been passed down for decades. It will unlock mantles that were delayed by generations who didn't have the courage to choose differently. And now, it's on you not as a burden, but as a torch. I'm handing you a flame, not to carry in fear, but to ignite something your children, and their children will walk in with freedom. And though it feels intense, you're not alone in this. I'm not placing pressure, I'm offering partnership. I'm not sending you forward blind, I'm guiding you with precision. You don't need every answer right now. You just need clarity of heart. You need to move not from emotion, but from communion. You need to ask not what feels right, but what is heaven pointing toward. Because when you move in step with me, your decisions become declarations in the unseen. They write songs into the future. They set rhythm into destinies not yet born. You have more influence than you realize, and that's why this moment feels so heavy. It's not just about you. It never was. And that's not a reason to panic, it's a reason to breathe deeper. Because I wouldn't entrust you with this moment if I hadn't equipped you to walk it out. Your next step, your next surrender, your next yes to my leading, it's going to shift atmospheres. It's going to build foundations where future voices will rise and speak my truth without shame or fear. You're creating access where there used to be walls. You're becoming a living answer to prayers prayed long before you arrived. So pause. Listen. Move with reverence. Because the ripple starts now and it begins with your obedience. You keep asking why you can't find peace in places that once soothed you. You try to settle, but something stirs before your spirit can exhale. What you've labeled as restlessness is actually a divine alarm. You are not lost, you are being called. That unease you feel pressing against your chest, that invisible tension building inside your decisions, that sudden disinterest in things that once captivated you, it's not coincidence. It's heaven interrupting your rhythm. I'm speaking not through thunder, but through internal disruption. I'm shaking you gently, but firmly, because you're too close to something critical to stay numb any longer. This is not confusion, it's urgency. A holy urgency placed deep inside you to pull your gaze away from distraction and redirect your soul to me. I know you've tried to ignore it, to drown it in busyness, to explain it away with logic, but I won't let you rest in the wrong atmosphere. I won't let you build comfort in a space that no longer carries your calling. You were made for more than this rhythm of survival. That agitation you're feeling, it's not emotional instability, it's your calling clashing with compromise. You've been walking too long in circles, asking for signs, while I've been trying to awaken you through your own unrest. I am not the author of confusion, but I will stir your peace when your direction is misaligned. I will make your soul itch when you're sleeping through your assignment. This isn't punishment, this is rescue. I'm waking you up before slumber steals your moment. Because something is coming. Something urgent. Something beautiful. And if you don't turn your ears toward me now, you'll miss the alignment I've prepared in the hidden place. This urgency is a gift. It's my mercy wrapped in discomfort. I could let you continue blindly. I could remain silent. But I love you too much to stay quiet while your spirit drifts. So I placed a fire inside you that can't be quenched by comfort. You've tried to silence it, but it keeps rising. You've tried to pause it, but it keeps pulling. Because this is not something your flesh can control. This is your inner man responding to a sound from eternity, a sound that says, now. Not later. Not when it's easy. Not when you feel more ready. Now. You've entered a moment where delay will cost more than you can see right now. What you do next will determine what I can release through you in the days ahead. That's why you can't sleep through this season. That's why old routines suddenly feel hollow. You're being awakened from within because your assignment has matured beyond your surroundings. The space you've grown accustomed to no longer fits the version of you I've been developing. And though it feels like discomfort, it's actually deliverance. I'm calling you out of patterns, out of cycles, out of compromise disguised as routine. This is not about a better life, it's about a bolder obedience. I'm not asking for perfection, I'm asking for awareness. Awareness that your restlessness isn't a flaw. It's a holy signal. A warning that the time to move is now. The time to respond is now. The time to surrender what's been pulling you backward is now. I'm igniting urgency in you because what's ahead demands alertness, not hesitation. You were not designed to remain neutral. You carry purpose too significant to keep sleeping through days that were meant to be strategic. And this urgency, it won't go away until it completes its assignment. To get you moving, to get you listening, to get you positioned for what I'm about to unfold. So stop misreading the signal. You are not broken, you're being summoned. And I will keep stirring you until you say yes. Because what's waiting is too valuable, too holy, too precise to let it pass by while you're distracted by lesser things. Every drop that fell from your eyes in silence, every cry that went unnoticed by people, every trembling breath you released when words couldn't form, I received them. Not one moment of pain was invisible to me. Not one ache escaped my awareness. You've been grieving, carrying burdens no one else saw, fighting battles in the unseen while trying to smile in the visible. But I want you to know your tears were not thrown into emptiness. They have been working beneath the surface. You were not crying into darkness. You were sowing into destiny. I collected every tear, not to store them in memory, but to transform them into growth. While you thought you were breaking, I was building. While you whispered, "Why this pain?" I was answering with, "This is preparation." Your sorrow was never pointless. You were weeping and planting at the same time. And now, the ground that looked barren is about to explode with beauty. You didn't see it, but every time your knees hit the floor in desperation, roots were going deeper. You were being anchored. You were being strengthened, even while you felt depleted. You assumed your vulnerability was weakness, but it was a sacred exchange. Each tear you offered became oil that has saturated your assignment. The pressure pressed you, but it also qualified you. The grief shaped you, but it also made space for glory. What others ran from, you endured. And I never looked away. I sat with you in the silence. I wept when you wept. I felt your trembling soul and never once judged it. I honored it, because I knew what you did, that those nights were tilling soil. And soon, what has been buried in sorrow will rise with resurrection. You didn't just survive seasons of heartbreak, you sanctified them by offering them to me. You didn't shut down. You kept breathing. You kept hoping. Even if your faith felt small, it was still faith. And that seed is enough for me to multiply. You thought nothing was happening, but what you did see was the supernatural momentum forming below the surface of your pain. While you mourned what was lost, I was preparing what's next. And it's more than restoration. It's fulfillment. I don't return what was stolen in pieces, I return it multiplied, matured, made whole. The drought you endured has ended. What once felt dry is being saturated by my spirit. And where nothing seemed to grow, suddenly life will spring forth in places you almost gave up on. Relationships will be renewed. Dreams will be reignited. Purpose will feel fresh again. But it won't look like what you imagined. It will be better. Because it was born through process, not fantasy. You've gained something in the sorrow that comfort alone could never give. You've gained spiritual depth. You've gained resilience. You've gained the authority to comfort others not with theory, but with testimony. And soon, you'll look back and say, I didn't understand it then, but now I see what was forming. The weeping didn't destroy you, it matured you. And now, your life is stepping into its bloom. I will not let a single tear go without response. I will not allow that level of intercession to pass without a harvest. You stayed when it hurt. You prayed when you were empty. You served when no one noticed. And now, it's your season of return. Not in the way the world rewards, but in the way heaven honors. Widely. Deeply. Eternally. The harvest is not coming, it's already breaking through. You've waited long enough. And I have not forgotten the pain you never spoke. I remember it all. And I will answer it with something so full, so divine, so precisely timed, that you'll understand why I let it take this long. Not to break you, but to build something in you that can't be undone. You came so close to stepping into something that looked right on the surface but was quietly misaligned with what I authored for your life. It mirrored what you asked for. It had the appearance of breakthrough. It seemed to promise the resolution your heart longed to feel. But I couldn't stay silent and watch you embrace something that carried no eternal signature. So I intervened. I interrupted what you almost claimed as your next chapter because I never approved the script. I saw what you couldn't. I discerned the undercurrent. I read the fine print you were about to skip over. And because I love you too deeply to let compromise become permanent, I allowed the unraveling before the attachment could deepen. I stepped in not to shame you but to shield you. This is not rejection. This is realignment. You were moments away from calling something my will that I never sent. It might have satisfied your hunger in the moment, but it would have starved your spirit in the long run. And I refuse to let a temporary comfort cancel the fullness of your purpose. You may not realize it yet, but this redirection is mercy in motion. The discomfort you feel now is far lighter than the regret I just rescued you from. What you were about to settle for would have delayed more than just progress, it would have drained your voice, dimmed your light, and distorted your discernment. And I refuse to let you trade your destiny for distraction dressed in approval. I know it felt like confirmation. I know it came wrapped in convenience. But convenience isn't always covenant. I'm not in what's easy, I'm in what's eternal. And if I let you accept what was never mine, it would have slowly reshaped you into someone I never created you to be. So I tore it away while your hands were still open. I closed the door before your heart could become entangled. I caused the connection to fade before it turned into a cage. And even though you feel the sting of sudden absence, I need you to trust that what I remove is always less than what I've prepared. You didn't miss anything by losing it, you gained everything by being spared from it. You asked me to lead you. You invited me into your decision-making. So I answered by disrupting your plan before it hardened into permanence. I didn't need you to understand it immediately, I just needed your surrender. I just needed your willingness to believe that when I say not this, it's because I'm still protecting what's next. Don't mourn what I never gave. Don't chase what I already blocked. Don't cling to what was only meant to pass by, not stay. I'm preserving your path. I'm safeguarding the treasures I've hidden in the next season. I'm not trying to confuse you, I'm helping you recognize the difference between what glows and what truly carries my glory. To let go. Let it fall away without trying to rebuild it. Let the silence speak louder than the promise it pretended to be. I've got more for you, better, deeper, stronger, more rooted. But I had to make space. You were about to carry something that had no permission to follow you into where I'm taking you. And I couldn't let that happen. I love you too much to remain distant while you step into counterfeit alignment. That's why I stopped you. That's why I disrupted your momentum. That's why I created a pause where you expected permission. It wasn't to frustrate you, it was to free you. You will see, in time, that what you nearly stepped into would have cost far more than you imagined. And when you see what's waiting on the other side of your surrender, you'll thank me for saying no when your heart was whispering yes. Because my yes is still coming, but it will come wrapped in peace, sealed with clarity, and confirmed with my presence. Not confusion, not compromise, not chaos. Wait for that. Nothing less. You kept thinking something was wrong with you. That maybe you prayed incorrectly. That maybe I had gone silent, withdrawn my hand, withheld the blessing because of something you did or didn't do. But I need you to see this clearly now. What you called denial was divine strategy. What you named as punishment was actually my protection in disguise. I didn't close doors because I was angry. I slowed the pace because danger was ahead, and I needed you to avoid what would have damaged more than just your plans. It would have tampered with your identity. I've watched you wait, wrestle, and wonder. You asked, why is everything taking so long? But you never saw the traps that were being removed while you stood still. You didn't see what I intercepted on your behalf. You didn't hear the conversations I shut down behind your back. You didn't witness the agreements I shattered in the unseen realm to prevent a future wound. You thought I was being distant, but I was fighting for you. I let things stall not because you were unworthy, but because you were worth too much to let you walk into what would have silently robbed your peace, piece by piece. Some of the paths you were ready to take were perfectly paved with destruction, cloaked in opportunity. You were seconds away from stepping into situations that looked right but were poisoned at the root. And had I not delayed you, you would have called it a blessing while it slowly broke your spirit. That's why I stepped in. That's why I allowed time to stretch. That's why I made what you prayed for take longer than you anticipated. Because there were layers you couldn't see, layers only I could peel back. There were motives hidden in people, in deals, in moments that were dressed in promise but hollow at the core. And I couldn't let you become entangled in something that would have demanded healing for years. You thought I was silent, but I was shielding. You thought I left you behind, but I was walking ahead, clearing the way. I restructured timelines. I redirected outcomes. I removed access where access would have led to slow compromise. You wanted momentum, I gave you mercy. And though it didn't feel like kindness at the time, one day you will thank me for every pause that preserved you. You'll thank me for not answering when you were begging for speed. Because if I had rushed the release, you would have carried blessings into environments not fit to sustain them. What I've prepared for you requires the right placement, the right timing, and the right heart condition, not just yours, but the hearts of those assigned to receive what flows through you. I delayed what you wanted because what I have for you carries weight. It cannot be delivered early. It cannot be mishandled. So I slowed things down, not to frustrate you, but to position you for something that could only arrive when you were ready and the atmosphere was safe. And now, I want you to release the idea that delay means disapproval. I've never been disappointed in your process. I've never regretted choosing you. You didn't miss anything, I made sure of that. I paused what you pursued because I knew it would take from you more than it gave. And the moment you surrendered to my pace, things began aligning again, not always visibly, but spiritually. So rest in this. My no was a setup for a better yes. My silence was me working beneath what your eyes could perceive. I redirected you to protect the purity of what I'm building. And even though you'll never fully know what I saved you from, your peace will testify that it was a right decision. Soon, the new door will open. And when it does, you'll walk through it with deeper clarity, stronger vision, and zero regret. And you'll say, now I understand why it had to wait. You felt the sting when it didn't work out. The silence after the attempt. The absence of response. The shut opportunity. You held it in your hands and watched it vanish. You poured your hope into it, and then it vanished like mist. And the ache that followed made you question everything: your value, your purpose, your hearing. You asked me why. You replayed every detail in your mind, wondering where it all went wrong. But I need you to hear me clearly now, that no was not abandonment. A door that didn't open. That wasn't rejection. It was me, stepping between you and a version of life that would have cost you peace you didn't even know you'd lose. I know what you don't. I saw where it would have led. I saw what was hiding behind the opportunity you wanted so badly. You saw the surface, I saw the roots. You prayed for my will, and I answered by removing what you thought you needed. Not because I enjoy withholding, but because I am committed to guarding what I planted inside you. You asked for elevation, but you didn't realize that not every path upward is one I've called you to walk. Some platforms are poisoned. Some relationships are distractions dressed as promises. Some open doors are exits from destiny in disguise. And because you carry purpose that carries others, I had to intervene. I had to shut it down. You thought I was turning away from you, but I was turning you towards something better. I was preserving your voice. I was shielding your capacity. I was protecting the timing of your impact. I didn't let it happen because it would have slowed you down beneath the surface. It would have confused your clarity, drained your confidence, and masked your identity under the weight of compromise. You only saw potential, I saw consequence. And even though it hurt, even though you felt like you failed, I was actually removing a weight before it ever reached your shoulders. You weren't dismissed, you were defended. You were denied, you were redirected. Rejection is what happens when people remove you. But this was me removing you from what would have broken the future you've been called to carry. You don't know how close you came to selling. You don't know how quietly you would have been reshaped by something that wasn't sent by me. But I stepped in. I blocked it. I confused it. I ended it. And though you wept over what didn't happen, you will soon rejoice over what was never allowed. You were spared more than you'll ever know. One day, when the right door opens, when the one I crafted in secret swings wide and your spirit recognizes it, you'll thank me for every moment I said no. Because that no was sacred. That no was timely. That no wasn't the end, it was a pivot. The unseen curve in the road that brought you right into the middle of my intentions. I'm not cruel. I'm precise. I'm not punishing you, I'm preserving something holy inside of you that must remain untouched until the appointed time. So lift your eyes. Don't stare at the door that didn't open, look for the one that's forming behind the veil. Because I'm building something stronger. I'm aligning something richer. I'm orchestrating something that will require striving to keep. What I open, no one will be able to shut. What I ordain, no mind will take credit for. And when you walk through it, you'll realize that every time I said no, I was simply making room for the yes that carries your real inheritance. Wait for that. Don't mourn the missing opportunity, celebrate the protection you didn't recognize in the moment. Because I'm a good father. And good fathers don't always give what is asked, they give what is needed to become who you're meant to be. That's what I did. That's what I'm still doing. You've looked around and wondered why others seemed to be seen while you remained invisible. You've poured your heart out faithfully, yet recognition never followed. Doors you believed would open stayed closed. Platforms you prepared for passed by. And deep inside, you questioned whether I had overlooked you, whether I had forgotten the dreams I once placed in your chest. But what you saw as delay was me tucking you into a quiet space where your roots could grow deeper than your pride could reach. I didn't withhold visibility to punish you, I did it to protect you. Because what you were ready to carry in public still needed refining in private. I saw how the weight of attention would have drained the oil I was still developing in the shadows. I saw how quickly applause could have distracted you from the still, small voice you've just now begun to recognize with consistency. You desired to be seen, I desired for you to become stable. You longed to be known, I longed to build you into someone unshakable when storms rise. I kept you tucked away not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen. Hiddenness is not abandonment, it is sacred insulation. It's the chamber where foundations are reinforced. And though you called it loneliness, I called it consecration. I needed you to walk through that quiet valley where it felt like no one noticed, so that when the time comes to stand where all eyes are watching, you'll carry presence instead of pressure. You won't have to perform. You won't be dependent on praise. You'll know who you are because you were forged in a place where only I could speak into your identity. The visibility you craved would have cost you clarity. It would have enticed you to mold your message into what pleases crowds, instead of what echoes heaven. I couldn't risk that. Your voice is too needed. Your calling is too specific. Your purity is too costly. So I wrapped you in stillness. I allowed silence to stretch longer than you expected. I gave you quiet corridors to walk through because I knew that's where intimacy would flourish. I didn't answer the request to be seen because I wanted your greatest desire to become being found in me. And now, here you are, more steady, more sensitive, more surrendered. What once felt like isolation, you now recognize as preparation. And the very rooms you thought you missed will one day call your name. Not because you campaigned for them, but because I'm the one who calls seasons into being. When I say it's time, no force can hold you back. But I will not bring you forward until you are ready to be known without losing the purity I placed in you. Visibility without spiritual maturity is exposure without covering. And I refuse to let you rise in public while still bleeding from private wounds. So I healed you in secret. I confronted your fears in hidden places. I built your confidence without applause, so that when attention comes, you won't be swayed by it. The glory that's coming will not be heavy, because you were shaped for it. You were given time to become anchored, not anxious. You were given silence to learn stillness, not scarcity. And now, I'm preparing to unfold you not like a performance, but like a promise. What I reveal will carry weight. And because you were faithful with invisibility, you'll be entrusted with influence that does not crush. I've watched you honor the hidden place. And because of that, your reward will be wholeness, not just opportunity. So do not mourn the season where no one clapped. Celebrate the safety that was hidden in obscurity. You were never buried, you were planted. And now, it's always time to rise. There were moments you whispered into the silence, "Have you left me behind?" You looked around and saw others moving, building, celebrating, receiving, while you sat in a space that felt untouched, unnoticed, paused. You kept showing up with faith, but the response you longed for never arrived. And slowly, you started wondering whether you were still in my plan at all. But today, I want you to know what felt like abandonment was actually protection of something holy. I didn't withhold because I didn't care. I withheld because I care too much. The reason things stayed quiet is because the calling placed upon your life is consecrated. It's not common. It's not ordinary. And what carries that level of sacredness cannot be released prematurely. You weren't overlooked, you were shielded. I had to keep you hidden from environments that would have mishandled what I've been forming inside you. I had to cover you until you stopped craving validation from crowds who would never understand the weight of your assignment. This was never about punishment. This was about timing. You were never disqualified, you were safeguarded. What I'm doing in you requires more than quick progress. It demands depth. It demands silence, solitude, and seasons where only I have access to your process. Because what I'm placing in your hands is something that must carry eternity's fragrance, not the residue of popularity. I couldn't let the world touch you yet, not while the oil was still being pressed, not while the roots were still being stretched, not while your spirit was still learning to trust me with no evidence but my presence. I know you didn't understand it. I know you wept. I know you waited longer than you thought you could. But everything in that waiting room was intentional. You were not just being delayed, you were being deepened. I was stripping off what would have cracked under pressure. I was removing layers of performance, healing wounds that would have sabotaged your stability, confronting fears that would have distorted your voice. I was forming someone who wouldn't fold when things finally begin to unfold. And now, you're closer than you realize to the moment where preparation meets manifestation. But I need you to see clearly why the silence was sacred. Because when the unveiling happens, when the gates finally open, when the doors swing wide, you'll walk into them with peace, not performance. You'll carry presence, not pressure. You'll lead from overflow, not survival. And it will be undeniable that it was me who kept you, refined you, preserved you. The world didn't forget you, I simply wasn't ready for them to see you yet. I wanted the first one to truly know you in full, to be me. I wanted your roots so wrapped in my voice that no opinion could uproot what I planted. And now, here you are, more whole than you were, more stable than you knew, more surrendered than you thought possible. That didn't come from applause. It came from intimacy. It didn't come from titles. It came from trust. And that's exactly what was needed to carry what's next. Because what's coming is not light. It's not shallow. It's not fleeting. It's weighty, eternal, dripping with glory. And it had to rest on someone who knows me, not just someone who works for me. So don't call yourself forgotten again. Don't question your significance another moment. If I was silent, it was because the process was sacred. If I was still, it was because the work I was doing in you was too deep for distraction. I've been closer than your breath this entire time. And soon, what I've kept sealed will be revealed, not as a surprise to you, but as a testimony to those who thought nothing was happening. When they see what you've carried in silence, they'll know it could only have come from me. And they'll realize this wasn't delay. It was divine reverence. You didn't lose them by accident. You didn't mismanage what caused their absence. The departures weren't a sign that you failed, they were a result of my intervention. I watched the moments you tried to hold it all together, to explain yourself, to salvage what kept slipping through your fingers. But what you couldn't see then, and what I'm revealing now, is that I was the one drawing a line. I was the one removing certain voices from your atmosphere before they diluted the next chapter of your calling. You thought their presence was part of the promise, but I saw the trajectory of their influence and how it would have entangled your spirit, distorting clarity when you needed it most. You hurt, I know. It felt like betrayal. It felt sudden. But I allowed the distance, because their proximity was becoming a threat to your purity. You were entering a phase where distractions had to be eliminated, not just for your sake, but for the sake of what I've assigned you to carry. You see, not everyone who starts with you can be trusted to walk into sacred spaces with you. Some were seasonal. Some were lessons. Some were tests. And some were temptations to keep your identity tied to the familiar instead of being forged in the fire of purpose. You didn't push them away, I pulled them. Because what I'm building in you can't coexist with voices that lack vision. I heard conversations you weren't privy to. I discerned motives disguised behind affection. I saw patterns forming that would have grown roots if I didn't sever the connection when I did. You only saw what they showed you, didn't see what they hid. But I did. I always do. And my protection isn't always about shielding you from pain. Sometimes it's about disrupting the plan of the enemy before it's fully formed. If I had left them close, their doubt would have drowned your faith. Your silence in your moments of need would have eroded your confidence. Their subtle compromise would have normalized spiritual apathy. And I love you too much to watch that happen. So yes, I let the door close. I let the silence fall. I let the invitation go unanswered. Not because you were unlovable, but because you were becoming too valuable to remain entangled. I had to prune the circle so your focus could sharpen. I had to empty the room so your ears could be tuned to me again. And though the separation felt personal, it was deeply spiritual. It was surgical. It was strategic. And I know it's dumb. I know you longed for closure, for understanding, for mutual peace. But their exit was not about agreement, it was about obedience. I didn't ask for your permission to protect you. I just did it. Because you prayed for growth. You asked for deeper intimacy with me. You said whatever it takes. And this was part of that answer. Growth requires pruning. And pruning doesn't ask if it's convenient. It simply removes what doesn't bear fruit for the future. I'm not trying to isolate you, I'm establishing you. I'm clearing the space for the right people, the right alignments, the right support systems that won't compete with your purpose but will complement it. You haven't been abandoned. You've been recalibrated. And what I'm preparing to place in your life now will make you understand why I had to subtract first. You'll see it. You'll feel the difference in your peace. You'll notice the stillness that comes when noise leaves. You'll rise not bitter but wiser. And when I reintroduce connection, it will be with people who see the real you, not the version they tried to shape, but the one I've been refining in the wilderness. Trust me, who left wasn't meant to carry what's next. And I won't let you lose what's coming by trying to keep what I already removed. Let it go, child. Not because it didn't matter, but because what's ahead matters more. I saw you when you didn't recognize yourself anymore. When the mirror reflected someone weary, someone doubting, someone carrying more questions than strength. You tried to smile through it. You tried to convince yourself you were okay. But inside, your soul was fractured. You wondered if you still mattered. If what you carrying was still useful. If your voice still held weight. The thoughts came quietly, at first subtle, nagging lies that grew louder when no one was watching. And while the world moved on around you, you sat with thoughts too heavy to speak out loud. That's when I entered the room, not with noise, but with nearness. Not to rebuke you for doubting, but to sit beside you in the moment you forgot your own value. I didn't rush to fix your emotions. I simply stayed. I stayed when you felt like you had nothing left to offer. I stayed when your confidence collapsed under the weight of silence. I stayed when you couldn't see past your own flaws, failures, and fatigue. Because that's what love does, it remains when everything else feels like it's unraveling. You weren't forgotten in those moments. You were surrounded. Even when the atmosphere was still, even when you couldn't sense my hand, I was right there holding space for your heart to breathe again. I was whispering identity back into you. You thought I was disappointed, but I was actually drawing closer. Because what you were calling weakness, I saw as a window, a place where I could pour truth into the cracks created by pressure and pain. And here's what I need you to hear. Your worth has never fluctuated based on your feelings. It isn't tied to your performance. It cannot be diminished by opinions or silence. Your value was sealed before you ever took your first breath. I wrote your name into eternity before you made your first mistake. I didn't call you because you were flawless, I called you because you were willing. And in that moment when you sat in doubt, I leaned in not to lecture you but to restore what was quietly unraveling inside. The enemy tried to use that moment to redefine you. He whispered lies, hoping you'd agree with his accusations. But I covered you. I shielded your identity when it felt like it was slipping. I wrapped you in grace when shame tried to suffocate your confidence. And while no one else saw the depth of your breaking, I did. And I didn't flinch. I didn't leave. I didn't grow tired of reminding you who you are. You see, your identity is not fragile, it's forged in my word. And even when your own voice grows faint, my voice speaks louder over your life. I still call you chosen. I still call you mine. I still call you equipped, anointed, called, and beloved. I see you with eternal clarity, not through the fog of failure but through the lens of promise. So even in your lowest moments, you were still radiant in my eyes. That dark room didn't define you, it became the place of reintroduction. The sacred space where I reminded you of everything you forgot in the chaos. You were never meant to carry identity alone. That's why I stepped in when your memory faltered. And now, I'm awakening you again, not just to feel better, but to stand stronger. I'm rebuilding your confidence on truth, not applause. I'm restoring your boldness with presence, not performance. This isn't just encouragement, it's a divine reset. A recentering of who you are, not based on how you feel, but on who I've always said you are. You are not fading. You are not falling behind. You are finding yourself again in me. And I will continue to speak your name until every shadow of doubt is gone. Until you rise, not only aware of your worth, but anchored in it. There have been thoughts you did invite. Ideas that crept in quietly, as if they belonged, whispering half-truths into your weary moments. They didn't arrive like an explosion, but like a slow grip, convincing you over time to believe what I never said. And while you fought to hold your head high, deep beneath the surface, something began to shift. Not all at once, but subtly. That's how deception works. It doesn't scream, it suggests. It poses questions you think are your own, until you start to doubt what I already declared over you. I watched you wrestle with accusations that didn't belong to you. Thoughts like, I'm not enough, I always fail, I must have ruined everything. But I want to say this clearly. Those words are not mine. They were never mine. They were sent to destabilize you, to separate you from your worth by dressing shame in your own voice. And now I've come, not to blame you for entertaining the lies, but to tear up every root they tried to grow inside your identity. Shame is not your inheritance. I didn't die for you to live enslaved to silent accusations. I didn't carry the weight of the cross so you could carry the weight of internal torment. I didn't conquer death just to watch you survive under the pressure of thoughts I never placed in your mind. You've repented for things I already forgave. You've wept over past versions of yourself I already buried. You've been stuck in cycles of guilt that were never authored by my spirit. And I'm here now, with love fierce enough to confront the darkness that's tried to masquerade as humility. Because shame is not humility. Self-loathing is not holiness. Silence does not equal surrender. You've confused inner torment for conviction, but true conviction always leads you home, not into hiding. I want your freedom, not your quiet compliance with false narratives. That's why I've come today to untangle what's been growing in your thoughts. To remove every remnant of words that were planted through pain, comparison, trauma, or misinterpretation. Some of those roots took hold when you were too young to defend yourself. Others found space during seasons of exhaustion when you weren't equipped to filter the voices around you. But I've seen it all. And I'm not standing over you with disappointment, I'm kneeling beside you with healing. I'm pulling the weeds you didn't know were there. I'm restoring the ground they tried to overtake. Because you were never meant to live defined by what wounded you. You are not what happened. You are not what they said. You are not your last mistake. You are not the voice of your lowest moment. You are mine. And my voice is stronger. My words are the seed that lasts. And I speak over you now, not in anger, but with authority. You are free. You are clean. You are restored. I don't see a failure, I see a fighter. I don't see someone disqualified, I see someone marked for more. And every lie that tried to root itself in your thinking is being evicted by truth. You've gone long enough believing half-light. And now it's time to walk in full revelation. Not just of who I am, but but of who you are in me. No more rehearsing shame in your thoughts like a silent chorus. No more apologizing for existing. No more lowering your head in rooms I've called you to influence. I'm renewing your mind, not just gently but decisively. And when I heal, I don't just soothe, I sever. I break the chains at the core. This isn't temporary relief, it's permanent removal. From this moment forward, you will recognize the difference between your voice and the voice of dissection. You will feel the difference between truth and distortion. And when those old thoughts try to return, they'll find no soul left in you. Because where lies once lived, truth now reigns. And the truth is, you are not shame's prisoner. You are royalty, fully restored. You saw others move forward while you stood still. You watched doors open for people around you, wondering why yours remained shut. You assumed the delay was evidence that something about you wasn't enough, that maybe your chance had come and gone, or perhaps I had chosen someone else. But I want you to know now, with certainty and peace, that your stillness wasn't abandonment. It was preparation. I never disqualified you. I never removed your name from the assignment. What felt like an activity was actually sacred incubation. I've been maturing your oil not in public view, but in the secret place. Because the kind of mantle you carry can't be rushed. The weight of it demands depth, and depth doesn't form in crowds, it forms in quiet. I wasn't denying you access. I was deepening your foundation so you would be able to hold what's coming without cracking beneath it. The delay was me giving you time, not because you were behind, but because I wanted the strength within you to match the platform beneath you. And even though others were seen first, that doesn't mean you were passed over. I wrote your story on a different timeline. One not built by comparison but by consecration. Because what's on your life isn't ordinary. You don't carry what everyone else does. And I couldn't allow you to emerge carrying something eternal while your inner world was still being healed. So I waited with you. I sat in the silence, not impatient, but intentional. I whispered truth while you wrestled with doubt. I molded your discernment. I refined your integrity. I tested your motives not to shame you, but to sharpen your awareness of what matters most. You asked me for influence, but I longed to give you impact. You wanted speed, I gave you stability. You reached for visibility, I handed you vision. Because when I call someone, I don't just appoint them, I anoint them. And anointing must be age. They must have been surrendered, Steve been still, Steve been draws. That's what I was doing all along. I wasn't ignoring your prayers. I was answering them differently than you expected. I didn't disqualify you, I was qualifying you through fire. Through the hidden yes. Through the silent obedience. Through the mornings you rose without recognition and still chose to be faithful. Every moment that felt overlooked became another layer of oil pressed from your spirit. And that oil, it's rare, it's costly, and it will do what mere talent cannot. It will break chains, shift atmospheres, carry healing, and awaken hope. But I couldn't let you step out prematurely, not when the preparation wasn't yet complete. I love you too deeply to rush what's holy. That's why it took longer. It's why the path was slower. Because I wasn't just preparing the assignment, I was preparing you to withstand the weight of it without losing your voice in the process. And now, the delay has done its work. What was once fragile is now fortified. You'll soon look back and thank me for not moving faster. Because when it happens, it will not be small. It will not be shallow. It will not be built on borrowed strength. It will be born of intimacy, of resilience, of a character tested in hidden places. And you'll walk in it not with insecurity, but with certainty. Because you will know, this wasn't handed to you for show. It was entrusted to you by design. So silence the voice that told you you missed it. That lie never came from me. The pause was on purpose. The delay was a gift. And now, the unfolding is near, not because of chance, but because I've called you ready. What I've placed on you is unique. It cannot be copied, duplicated, or replaced. The anointing that rests over your life was designed specifically for you, tailored to your calling, sealed by my hand, cultivated through experiences no one else could have carried. It wasn't something you earned, it was something I entrusted. But with that oil comes responsibility. Not the responsibility to perform, but to respond. Because though no one can take what I've placed upon your spirit, you can quiet it. You can push it down. You can dilute it by giving your attention to lesser voices and ignoring the weight of mine. That's what I've come to caution you about, not because I'm angry, but because I love you too much to watch you drift. This isn't about losing your calling, it's about losing the clarity that comes from walking in step with me. The oil on your life flows best when you remain yielded. It's not something you maintain with effort, it's something that pours freely when you stay aligned. But every time you push aside that nudge, every time you silence that whisper, every time you delay obedience, because it's inconvenient, the flow becomes quieter. Not because I revoke what I've given, but because you've layered so many other voices over mine. Your gifting remains. Your influence may still function. But the purity of the oil, its potency, its fire, its fragrance is tied to your surrender. That's why your heart has felt so conflicted lately. That's why even in rooms full of noise, there's a holy silence pressing in on you. I've been trying to reach you not through volume but through conviction. And I'm not calling you to do more. I'm calling you to return. To return to the place where obedience was your instinct, not your second guess. To return to the posture where my word was your anchor, not an auction. You were never created to operate apart from my presence. And the oil that rests on your life thrives in intimacy, not independence. If you try to run ahead of me, if you try to fulfill purpose without proximity, you'll find yourself pouring out from a place that feels dry. And that guys won't come from lack of calling, it will come from lack of connection. I'm not warning you because you're in danger of being disqualified. I'm speaking because I see the distractions threatening your sensitivity. The world will always offer applause for function without presence. But I'm not interested in how well you perform without me. I'm interested in how fully you depend on me. Because when the applause fades, when the lights dim, when the assignment stretches you beyond your strength, it's my voice that will sustain you. And if you can't hear me clearly, even the oil will begin to feel like a burden instead of a blessing. That's not what I want for you. I want you to walk in overflow. I want you to minister from rest, not pressure. I want your decisions to be led by my spirit, not public opinion. But for that to happen, you have to return to the place where my voice is central. Not occasional. Not supplemental. Central. I'm not hard to find. I've never stopped speaking. But you must choose to listen, even when the volume of life tries to drown me out. Protect your oil, not by striving but by abiding. Because once you begin living from that place again, everything else will realign. Discernment will sharpen. Peace will rise. The flow will return not because the oil left, but because the space has finally been cleared again for it to move freely. You don't need to search for more. You simply need to return to what you already carry. And I'll meet you there not with condemnation, but with fresh fire. The kind that cannot be faked, forced, or fabricated. The kind that flows when nothing stands between your heart and mine. You've arrived at a crossroads that demands clarity. Not from circumstances, but from conviction. I've led you gently until now, but where I'm taking you next requires a firmer grip on purpose and a release of what has become too familiar to move forward with you. There comes a moment in every journey where a decision must be made not out of fear, but out of alignment. You've asked for more. You've prayed for open doors. You've wept over delay. But here's the truth I need you to grasp. The calling you carry will not fit into the spaces you've tried to make comfortable. The weight of your assignment demands space that convenience cannot offer. Comfort has served you, but now it is silently trying to contain you. You cannot bring it with you into what I am unfolding next. Not because comfort is sinful, but because it is too small to hold the growth that's about to happen. You were made to move, not to settle. And what once nurtured your development is now resisting your advancement. This is why tension has risen in your daily routine. Why the familiar places no longer satisfy. Why the rhythm you used to enjoy now feels like restriction. Because I am calling you higher, and higher ground demands lighter loads. You can't climb with everything in your hands. Especially not when some of what you carry is based in fear of letting go. I see the way you've held onto it safe. I know the calculations you've made to avoid risk. I've watched you stand on the edge of decision, hoping I would lower the cost. But I cannot do that because the cost is what shapes the capacity. This next season won't be forged through convenience. It will be formed through commitment. And commitment always confronts comfort. You have to decide, do you want to be where it's familiar, or do you want to step into the fulfillment I've been preparing? You can't have both. The door you've been praying to open will not swing wide until you've emptied your hands of what's become your safety net. I'm not asking you to leap blindly. I'm asking you to trust me with both feet. Because what you're stepping into cannot be half-lived. You must be all in. This is the place where the smallest breaks, where the identity that was formed to survive begins to shed and give way to the identity built for legacy. But the longer you cling to what you know, the harder it will be to step into who you really are. I haven't changed my mind about your calling. I've just been waiting for you to release the grip on your preferences. Comfort tells you to remain hidden. Calling tells you to move when it's time, even if your voice trembles. Comfort teaches you to settle for what seems manageable. Calling invites you into mystery where faith leads the way. You can't cling to comfort and walk in fire. You can't worship safety and expect transformation. This is the hour where the choosing matters more than you realize. I'm not rushing you, but I am requiring a decision. Will you stay where it feels easy, or will you walk into what you were created to carry? Because I am already standing in the space you've been dreaming about. But I can't drag you into it. I can only draw you closer. And the sound of my voice is already moving forward. Follow me. Let go of what numbs your boldness. Lay down what no longer fits. And don't look back, not because what's behind was evil, but because what's ahead is holy. Your future cannot be built on yesterday's hesitation. This is the threshold. Choose well. And when you do, you'll see calling was worth every ounce of comfort you surrendered. You didn't realize what I was doing when the weight increased. You thought maybe something had gone wrong, that maybe you'd missed a step, taken a wrong turn, or somehow ended up in a season I never planned for you. But child, that pressure wasn't punishment, it was purpose in motion. I didn't allow it to crush you. I allowed it to cultivate something that only intensity can reveal. Depth. The surface level faith that once sustained you was no longer enough for what I'm building in you. So I allowed situations to stretch you, not to torment you, but to draw out of you the kind of prayers that shake the heavens. Because before the breakthrough, there has to be alignment. And alignment only happens when you stop talking from routine and start crying out from revelation. I heard your earlier prayers, the ones laced with fear and hesitation. But lately, something has changed. I watched as your language shifted. You stopped begging and started believing. You stopped listing demands and started asking for my heart. The pressure pushed you beyond performance and into surrender. And that's when things began to turn. That's when heaven responded. I wasn't distant during the struggle. I was drawing near, measuring every heartbeat, every whisper, every tear. Because those moments were sacred. You came to me not with a script, but with authenticity. And now, I'm moving, not randomly, but with precision. What I'm about to release is not general. It's not vague. It's not something I'm recycling from another season. It's specifically tailored to what your spirit hath been shaped to carry. This is not a scattered blessing. This is a direct answer. A targeted response to the groans you didn't have words for. When you didn't know what to pray, your soul still cried. And I interpreted every unspoken longing. I mapped out every request, even the ones you buried under frustration. And now, The appointed time has arrived for answers not just to come, but to land exactly where the wound was deepest. You will recognize my hand in the details, not just in the open doors, but in how perfectly they fit. Not just in the provision, but in how timely it is. I'm not answering according to your timeline. I'm answering in the moment when it will matter the most. I allowed the pressing so that the glory could be unmistakable. Because when it comes, no one will be able to say it was coincidence. The only explanation will be, this was God. But remember, this kind of answer only comes through fire. And you walked through it. You stayed when you wanted to run. You kept showing up when it felt pointless. And every time you chose to trust me in the dark, it widened the channel through which my voice now pours. You didn't understand why I didn't relieve the burden instantly, but now you'll see. What I was doing in you had to be finished before what I promised could be revealed. And now, what's been maturing behind the scenes is about to meet the moment I've reserved. So prepare, not with anxiety, but with awe. Because I'm not just giving you what you asked for. I'm giving you what I had hidden, waiting for the moment your spirit was ready to receive it fully. No delays. No reviewing. No excess. Just precision. Answers wrapped in glory, timed with eternity, delivered with exactness that only a loving Father could orchestrate. What once pressed you down is now lifting you higher, and what once brought you to your knees will now raise your hands in praise. I didn't just hear you, I heard you rightly. And now, it begins. You've been carrying the weight of a moment I already let go of. You keep revisiting the scene, analyzing what you could have done differently, where you should have turned, what might have happened if you had chosen better. But child, you're trying to resurrect something I buried in mercy. That stumble, the detour, the painful chapter, it wasn't your undoing. It was a redirection. You saw it as disqualification, but I saw it as the very ground that would teach you how to hear me more clearly. I never asked you to be flawless. I asked you to be faithful. And part of faithfulness is learning how to rise when your knees have hit the floor. I saw how hard it hit you. I felt the ache ripple through your spirit when you realized what slipped through your fingers. But what you've missed is that grace stepped in before guilt could finish its sentence. I didn't turn away from you, I turned toward you, right at the moment when you turned against yourself. You were never created to carry the labels that mistake tried to assign you. You weren't called to rehearse the scene until it became your identity. You are not the failure. You are not the fall. You are the story I am still writing, and that chapter, however painful, was not the final word. I used that place of brokenness to awaken something in you that couldn't be reached through success. It humbled your steps. It refined your discernment. It brought you to the end of self-reliance so you would finally lean on me, not your performance. What you thought disqualified you has actually made you more dangerous to darkness. Because now you know what it's like to fall and be lifted by my hand. You know the sound of shame trying to keep you down, and the power of truth lifting you back up. And that knowledge, that experience, cannot be taught in comfort. It can only be found in moments where my grace met your grief and told you it wasn't over. So I need you to stop punishing yourself with what I already redeemed. I'm not holding it over your head. I used it to strengthen your foundation. And while you keep trying to move forward while dragging the weight of that memory, I'm inviting you to drop it entirely. It's not helping you. It's hindering you. You don't owe your past a lifetime of mourning. You owe your future your full attention. What happened didn't ruin the plan. It revealed what needed to be repaired. And now that it has been, the path ahead is clearer than ever. I haven't changed my mind about you. I'm not revising your calling. I'm reaffirming it. And you'll walk with greater clarity now, not because everything went smoothly, but because you saw what didn't work and learned to hear me in the aftermath. Your fall didn't push me away. It pulled me closer. And if you listen now, you'll hear not accusation, but instruction. Not condemnation, but invitation. To step back into movement. To walk with your head held high, not as one who never failed, but as one who rose with fire in their bones and wisdom in their steps. So stop replaying it. Stop rewriting it in your thoughts. Stop assuming everyone still sees you through that lens. I see you covered. I see you cleansed. I see you focused again. And that's enough. You're not broken. You're rebuilt. And you're stronger now than you ever were before the fall. Let it go. Not because it wasn't real, but because it served its purpose. And now, I need your full attention on what's next, because I'm not done. I'm just getting started. I never invited you into a life of striving. That was never my way for you. You've been exhausting yourself trying to earn what I gave you freely. You measure yourself against imagined standards, holding up your actions and words like scales in a courtroom, as if I'm judging your merit with every breath. But child, listen to me now. I loved you long before you did anything for me. My choice of you was not based on your record. It was based on my heart. When I knit you together, I already knew your faults, your fears, your future slips, and still, I called you mine. Still, I placed my image on you. Still, I reserved a place for you in my arms. You keep trying to impress me with how strong you are, how committed you are, how productive and spiritual you appear, but none of that moves me more than your simple yes. That is what I treasure. Not your performance, but your posture. Not your perfection, but your presence with me. You think your quiet seasons have made you less valuable. You assume your mistakes have tarnished your standing with me. But I don't love like man loves. I don't grade your value by visible fruit alone. I see your surrender when no one claps. I watch you pray when your faith feels fragile. I hear your broken hallelujahs when you feel least deserving. And in those moments, especially in those moments, my affection for you is undiminished. You don't realize that it's not what you do that makes you mine. It's who you are to me. You could never increase my love for you, and nothing you've done can decrease it either. That's why I need you to breathe. To stop running in circles of anxiety, trying to earn a place you already hold. You have been seated with me in heavenly places, not as a visitor but as a son, as a daughter, as royalty redeemed. And yet, you're still measuring yourself by human comparison. Still watching others rise and wondering what's wrong with you. Still thinking that more effort, more output, more striving will finally bring peace. But child, the only thing that brings peace is knowing you are already fully accepted. I am not pacing in heaven waiting for you to earn back favor. I am at your side, gently reminding you, you are loved because I say so. This has never been about religious behavior. It has always been about relationship, about walking together, about you resting in the truth that you are cherished without condition. You've spent so long trying to be enough that you've forgotten the gift of being chosen. When I picked you, it wasn't a mistake. When I placed that calling on your life, it wasn't based on your strengths, it was based on my grace. And my grace is not something you qualify for, it's something I freely give. If you're trying to prove anything today, let it be to the lies that say you're too broken, too late, too unworthy. Prove them wrong by standing in the truth that I've already claimed you, already cleansed you, already marked you with my love that does not shift like shadows. You were worth dying for before you ever believed in me. You were precious to me before you ever lifted your hands in praise. Your tears, your struggles, your long nights, I saw them all, and still I said, that one. That's the one I want. So stop trying to present a resume to me when all I want is your heart. I'm not impressed by your ability to hold it all together. I'm moved by the moments you fall apart and still whisper my name. That is faith. That is intimacy. That is the beauty I see in you. Don't try to outwork your doubts. Bring them to me. Don't try to outperform your shame. Lay it down at my feet. Let this be the day you stop chasing the approval you already have in me. Rest, beloved. Rest in the truth that I don't need your perfection. I only want your presence. Let that be enough. Because to me you already are. You've stared at the silence and thought it was my absence. You've looked at the slow unfolding of your prayers and misread it as rejection. But let me pull back the veil for a moment. Not everything I do begins with sound. Not every miracle shouts when it starts. Sometimes the loudest work I'm doing begins beneath the surface, invisible, quiet, undetected by the eyes of those who only chase instant evidence. I know how long you've been waiting. I've watched you wonder if the doors that didn't open were the end of the story. But child, they weren't closed to punish you. They were shut to protect you while I built something behind the scenes that couldn't be rushed. I see you comparing timelines. I see the way you notice how others are being called forward while you feel stuck on pause. But if only you knew what I'm preserving you for. If only you could glimpse the magnitude of the assignment that required extra preparation. You wouldn't question the timing. You would thank me for the delay. What you're calling stillness is the soil of strategy. I am setting into motion a chain of alignment that will make sense only once it blooms, and when it does, it will silence every doubt that tried to make a home in your chest. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because I've been silent doesn't mean I've been still. You don't realize it, but the angels have already been dispatched. The resources are already being routed. The people I'm assigning to your path are already waking up with your name in their spirit. You believed that the delay meant I was overlooking you. But it's the opposite. The longer it takes, the greater the weight of what I'm entrusting to you. This isn't about punishing you with patience. It's about preparing you for permanence. Quick victories fade fast, but what I'm giving you is built to last. That's why I had to break the shallow patterns first. That's why I had to remove you from rooms that applauded you for things that had nothing to do with your calling. That's why I closed the doors that others told you were guaranteed to open. Because I never wanted you to walk into a moment you weren't emotionally ready to carry. I never wanted you to step into a blessing that would crush your spirit instead of elevate your faith. You keep wondering, why hasn't it happened yet? But I'm asking you to look deeper and ask, what have I been growing in this me time? Because your roots have stretched in the dark. Your trust has deepened through the silence. Your discernment has sharpened where you thought nothing was happening. And all of that is proof that the delay was never wasted. You are becoming someone who can carry more, not just more responsibility, but more revelation, more peace, more wisdom, more clarity. And what I'm about to reveal in your life will not just be a moment of celebration. It will be a marker in the timeline of generations after you. They will point to what I did for you, and know that I am a God who works in mysteries before He moves in miracles. So don't mislabel this season. Don't let disappointment rename what I've called in progress. Don't let exhaustion declare what I've still promised. It's not over. In fact, the clock hasn't even struck the hour I've ordained. You're early, and I'm not late. I'm exact. I'm deliberate. And when I say it's time, nothing and no one will be able to prevent what I've appointed for you. You will walk through doors you didn't knock on. You will receive confirmation before you ask for it. You will see how I orchestrated every detour into a direct route of favor. But for now, trust the quiet construction. Trust the hidden work. Trust the deep things that others don't see, because what I'm building will soon rise in such a way that everyone will know it had to be me. You've looked at your past and whispered to yourself, surely that disqualifies me. The tears you shed over what you could not undo, the shame you've carried from wounds you never intended to create, the stumbles, the silence, the moments of giving up halfway through. You've let those things define your eligibility in my kingdom. But I'm here to confront every lie you've told yourself about why you're not ready, not worthy, not holy enough, not whole enough. Because the very places you tried to hide, the cracks, the flaws, the places you assumed made you unusable, are the precise places I've chosen to display my glory. I don't discard what's bruised. I don't bypass what's broken. I don't need perfection to move. I need surrender. That part of your story that you've tried to bury. That is the seed I've planted to bring forth your harvest. You see, when you bring me your scars, you're not showing me your failure. You're giving me the proof that healing happened. The enemy wanted you to believe your weakness was evidence of defeat. But I say your weakness is the stage on which my strength performs. I'm not asking you to be flawless. I'm asking you to be honest. I'm not requiring a spotless resume. I'm asking for a willing heart. My calling has never been about who looks the part. It's about who says yes when no one else does, even while trembling. I chose David when his brothers were more trained. I picked Moses though he stuttered. I sent Esther though she was afraid. And I've picked you, not in spite of your past, but because I can turn your past into power. What you thought was disqualifying you has actually qualified you to carry an authority that others can't fake. You've been through fires and came out with the evidence. You've walked through storms and still speak peace. You've been overlooked, but you still kept loving. You've been wounded, but you still kept giving. And that resilience wrapped in surrender, is what I'm using now. Because the world doesn't need perfect examples. It needs living proof that I can redeem anything. And you, my child, are about to become that evidence. Not through your efforts, but through my elevation. I will lift you in a way that no one can deny. Not because you checked every box, but because you gave me every broken piece. You thought it was over when they walked away. You assumed your calling expired when you fell into silence. But child, I never canceled your assignment. I never removed my name from your story. What looked like disqualification was me rerouting the road to make sure your character could carry the crown. If I had promoted you when you were still people-pleasing, the weight would have crushed you. If I had accelerated you before healing had taken root, the exposure would have left you bleeding. But I protected you even from the things you prayed for too soon. Because I never build on sand, I build on surrender. And what I'm about to release in you will require every ounce of the lessons you learned while hidden. You thought you were being punished. No, child, you were being prepared. So today, I need you to shift your perspective. I need you to stop rehearsing your reasons why not. I need you to stop making a case against yourself using chapters I already redeemed. When I said it is finished, I meant your shame too. I meant your guilt too. I meant your history too. So now, walk boldly. Not arrogantly. Boldly. Because you're not standing in your own name. You're walking in the authority of the one who called you despite it all. And this next season of your life, it won't make sense to those who only knew your struggle. But it will glorify me, and that's always been the point, amen.